Hello, everybody, and thank you for your patience. We'll get started right away. We have Pete Graham on the phone from SAP, and we're here for the SAP Revenue Recognition User Group. I believe, Pete, it's our 14th Revenue Recognition User Group.
Yep, that's the count I have as well.
Awesome. So why don't we get started in the interest of time? Let me see, Pete, are you sharing your screen?
Yeah, I think you gotta give me presenter. Yeah, presenter.
There you go.
All right, let me know if you can
All set.
see.
I can.
All right, great. Well, thanks everyone for joining today. I know some of it's, for some of you, it's very late or early. We just wanted to provide a quick update. We haven't had a meeting actually since, I think, late Q1. And we were actually trying to get a meeting scheduled in Q2, but things got a little more busy than we thought. So we didn't want to let Q3 slip by without at least giving you some quick updates. So again, sorry, I got the wrong slide deck there. Over here. So here we go. Here's the right one. I was actually updating the RAR presentation. So as John said, this was meeting number 14. So thanks everyone for joining. I think most of you know about the RAR solution, but for those who may be new, revenue accounting reporting is a tool to automate and simplify revenue accounting. The idea is to take revenue documents, imagine the system revenue accounting reporting, or RAR for short, is a funnel. You pour them into this funnel, apply some rules, apply some events, and journal entries come out the other side. Now, we know this can be a very difficult and complex topic, and we've learned that in some ways the easy way, in some ways the hard way over the last 4 or 5 years. The good news is we keep plugging along and make improvements, with each feature pack, and that's really what we'll cover today, is give you a high level, and really, as we've done in other sessions, we just want to give you a broad brush, make sure you're aware of the latest, and where you can go to find that information on the details, because there are now a lot of new features that are being introduced to the solution, especially now that we have a lot of customers that went live in production over January into Q1 and Q2. The number of features in the feature pack now is starting to go up again, and we want to alert you to that fact. User group community is well over 1,200, almost 1,300. So thanks again for your interest. Again, the link is open to anybody that is in the RAR community within SAP customer base or partner base. So please forward it to those folks. I want to thank John and Dave from Bramisol for sponsoring the webinar again. I guess this was like meeting number 1 or 2. We tried to do it with a tool we use at SAP, and it turned out we had more than that tool could subscribe, so we had users that got blocked out. So since early on, we've been able to go to a much better platform, which this is, which can handle 100 of folks. We don't have anybody locked out. So thanks again, Bramisol, for sponsoring that. Really, the biggest thing today is to really just go through a broad overview of the updates of the feature packs 5 and 6, and just want to make sure you're aware of those items. We'll also plan to have another user group call or meeting in September, October, and John's actually working with one of our customers in the Bay Area to try to arrange not only the virtual part of the meeting, but also in-person meeting as well.
Yeah, and one thing to note for everybody is what we'd like to do is get you guys, a couple of people submitted some questions that we'll follow up on, but we want to see the community get a little more active on one of our other user groups. We have a lot of discussion, so please feel free to submit to Pete or me any questions, issues, or topics that you would like to see in these meetings, so that we can make sure that we have a chance for you to get answers to those questions, but also we'd like to encourage you as a community to participate and share information with one another about some of your own best practices and learnings. So, okay.
Okay, so just to recap the mission statement or community goals, we really think a healthy community benefits everyone that is working on revenue recognition within the SAP ecosystem. So we try to have these meetings where we do some knowledge sharing, some informal networking, and understand what is going on in the community. And really, since more customers are going live, we're getting more requests for informal networking. Hence, that's why John has been working diligently with a couple of our customers to try to see if we can set up another in-person meeting here in the fall. Just a reminder on kind of the updates of 1.3 in early adopter care. I mean, we've been out since December 12th, 2016, but we're now on 3 support packages and another 3 feature packs. So the latest 2 feature packs is what we want to cover today on 5 and 6, just very high level. And then we'll have some tips and tricks that John will present based on some experience that the Bramisol team has seen at several customer implementations, and then we'll have some time for questions. So we want to go over to feature pack 5. So let's just jump up here so everyone sees. We're talking about feature pack 5. Again, this was out in late March, kind of early April. Let's just, one thing we want to make sure folks know that there is also an integration component, SD integration component. It essentially has not been revised in the version number, so you'll still see it out there as 1.0, but you'll see that the support packages have gone up. So what we try to do is every time we have a support pack or feature pack on RAR, almost at the same time, you'll find a support pack update for the SD component if there is one. So just those are now in better alignment over the last couple feature pack releases. So please note when you look for the software, you need to really look for 2 components, the SD component as well as the RAR component. So there are some improvements related to the SD component that are listed here, as well as down on slide 13, the feature pack 5. Now, some of you are probably already on feature pack 5, but we noticed that there are many customers that still aren't, and that could be because of the way their projects are running. So just want to make sure you're aware of the changes and improvements. Certainly in this presentation, the way we've split it up is we split it up into general performance improvements, and that's really something that we always try to improve, right? With every release, we're always trying to make things go more smoothly. Certainly around the operational side, we had changes in the batch, the way that we are calculating in certain circumstances. There's also improvements in the transition process, things around additional notes around migration and transition, as well as when you're doing the cumulative catch-up program. There's also additional flexibility in contract management, as well as in contract modifications and disclosures. I'm pretty sure these slides are available to send around afterwards, so we'll try to get these out to you. The thing that we want you to understand is that we do have different notes, right? So you definitely want to take or jot down, if you haven't already seen these notes, that are really kind of very good at giving you guidance about how you navigate all of the information out there that are in the note system related to revenue accounting reporting. So you can see that, there's an FAQ note on kind of this 2582-784 about how kind of you navigate some of that stuff. There's also a note on the release strategy that gives you some insights, additional information there. Also patching SP5, there was a correction, so please note this, related to cost center revenue line items. And also this add-on RevRec component. or this is on the SD side. We talked about. I mean, kind of at a pictorial perspective, these are where this gives you an idea of where the improvements are coming, right? If you look at this from a high level perspective, and again, we have the core software here, which is RAR. We have the integration component, which is SD. And again, SD is going to be 1.0, RAR is 1.3, and you can see where the improvements are. Some on the SD side related to SB15 for the integration component. Then we also have improvements around the RAI processing, and then over in the engine itself, contract lifecycle management, data processing, accruals management, and information lifecycle management. So as you go through this presentation, we'll kind of cover each of these a little bit. But again, the idea on this call is really giving an idea of what's out there so that you can dig into it offline, and hopefully that will be of use to you as you dig into it. Let's go back. So the first part of this slide deck is covering the SD integration component improvements, which are around 4 things. Improved fulfillment event date determination logic for cancellations, updated due date calculations and billing document cancellations, enablement of batch split processes, and the suppression of SDOI and SDPI RAI generation triggered by ATP activities. So definitely starting to get into the details a bit. And I won't cover those details here, but just want to alert you to them so you can dig into them offline. As we now move to the feature pack part, or the core solution part, again, I started covering this before, and now that you've seen it a second time, hopefully it's resonating kind of how this is organized. Again, you've got general performance improvements, then items for operational support, transition, flexibility in contract, improved flexibility for implementing contract modification, as well as disclosures. And then if we go through this deck, you've got more information and notes for each one. And we'll try to send this out to you after the call. You can see there are quite a few notes on some of these different sections, so and some different information. So that's kind of the 411, or the quick overview on Feature Pack 5. With Feature Pack 6, we have a similar, just jump over to it, sorry. Similar structure, but on this one, you'll see the enhancements for the integration point at 16. I don't think we have listed out in the same way, but again, you do have an update to the integration component. So it goes from 15 to 16, and the feature pack goes from 5 to 6. Again, you see some of the same areas of improvement, and also some different areas. Certainly, one of the different areas is around the parallel processing framework. As we look at Feature Pack 6, I mean, the one that stands out to me is some additional SD process support, things like drop shipment process. And so this is one that I know some folks have been asking for a long time, especially as it relates to SD RevRec. There's also, again, as you go back to the pictorial, right, we have now, if we look at the contract management items, you have improvements in different areas related to document and account assignments. You have basically the ability now to take a performance obligation for a cancellation on a compound structure separately. We have some a body improvement, or a new body around the log POV data. You've got some different features around overfillment during returns processing, and improvements around setting revenue accounting period status to in closing when you're doing reporting. On the operations support, you've got some parallelization to clean up and reverse the productive data. You also have enhanced in-flight and data validation checks, which I think are useful and are still proving useful to many customers. In terms of the flexibility, You have basically now several improvements related to manual spreading, standalone cell range validation, as well as allocation for a formula for condition type. There's also ability to apply contract changes to the earliest open periods. On the disclosures, we now have a couple new items around GL accounts between revenue accounting and general ledger, between the postings in the general ledger, and from receivable to billable for posted amount reports. There's also improvements to the migration and transition process for better support implementation. Here you'll see exchange rates, and those can be tricky in a lot of implementations in many areas, but certainly here there's now a report to look at the difference between the actual rate for the calculation and when you may have looked at an initial load, just to make sure your currencies are in line with what you expect and there's nothing material. So that's kind of the summary of 6. And again, this is not meant to go into these in details, but really it's more of a awareness really set of discussions here to make sure you're aware of these things, to now go out and look into the documentation. And you can see we now have a huge set of slides, right? 75 slides that now will go through this and the different notes. And so you'll have to do some homework offline as you go through this, because for instance, just the drop shipment one itself is actually quite detailed. Okay, with that, I want to switch now over to the tips and tricks, and then we'll go to some questions.
Yeah, actually,
so John,
there is a question. Hey,
okay,
so Pete, there is one quick question from Harsha. So go ahead. I unmuted you, Harsha. You want to ask your question, please?
Yeah, I just wanted to know if RAR has a way to resend the source SD documents, like in a sense, if I'm setting up a sales order on the SD side and it did not flow into RAR for some reason, is there a way that I can resend it again into RAR without making any changes on the SD side?
I'm not sure. We're gonna have to go offline and get an answer. So basically, you've already added the SD document, and you want to resend it totally without changes. Is that what you want to do? You want to like resubmit it?
Yes. So, yep. So the SD document, the first time it did not flow into RAR for some settings missing. Let's say I did not have the sales stock type and item category set up in RAR. And then I go back and add those settings in place. Is there a way that I can re-push the same sales order into RAR?
I need to check. So.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right, let's keep going.
Yeah, let's go to the tips and tricks real quick. So I'd taken your slide, John, and let's just put it in here.
Sure. Yeah, so we wanted to share a couple of tips and tricks for those of you who are out there. I pulled this from polling our COE. So let's talk about them. They fall into really 3 basic categories. The first one focuses on data migration and data management. So the first one that we've seen is plan up front for robust data migration testing. What we've seen is a lot of our customers don't put in enough robust and plan for adequate testing for data migration, and we find that towards the end it impacts your ability to do cutovers. It impacts the number of mocks that you have to do. So make sure that you have put in adequate testing. The question, of course, that comes out of that is, well, what is adequate testing? I think that really is dependent upon the amount of data and complexity of your system. In some cases, 2 mocks or 3 mocks is enough, but in other cases, 4 is required. And in some cases, you want to look at your data migration testing and do small samples, and then improve that and extend that testing. And I would encourage you certainly to use well-founded tools and data migration tools that are out there. Bramisol has some relationships with companies and tools that we've used and adapted from RAR, so we certainly can help you with that. Understand your data needs and plan in advance. Really, what we find is a lot of people don't go back and think about those data needs and what are you going to do from a reporting perspective. Number one, obviously the disclosures reports. So think about those, and we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes, but think very carefully about those data needs. But also, how do you want to manage? In the case of a lot of companies where they're managing complex service plans or complex MEAs, you want to think and be mindful of the kind of data that you'll require to make decisions. What's your take rate on service plans? Are you seeing different take rates on upgrades? Understanding what data you'll need and where it will come from will be very critical to making sure that you stay on your track. Another key area is proper reconciliations. We have seen a number of different places where companies get to the end and they start doing their either parallel processing or parallel accounting, and they haven't done may or may not have done a proper reconciliation. So you want to use a tool, for example, like Blackline or others, where you can make sure that you've looked at your before and after. What did I expect to see? What happened? And go through that process a number of different times so that you can report to the street up front. So from a data perspective, of course, there's a lot more, but those are three of the big areas I know our team has seen, and I certainly encourage all of you to send over your thoughts and comments, and what we can do is start to collect them and share them through either FAQs or just through a knowledge sharing that we can send out subsequent to this meeting and in follow-up meetings. For those of you who are on an S4, if you're planning on an S4 project, don't wait on RAR. All of the work and all of the complexity that will go into your plans, whether you're looking at upgrading to 1809, where RAR will be embedded, if you will, into 1809, or if you're looking at an RAR project further down the road, all the work and effort that's required to think about the processes, the data requirements, the data migration, the vast majority of that work will be usable and leverageable in your S4 implementation. Secondly, if you think about tools like BRF Plus, which are used for setting up your rules, all of those tools will be usable. So we encourage you certainly to start now. The second one is, if you're doing S/4HANA migration, get your end-to-end processes right first. Don't think that RAR is going to solve your end-to-end business processes. RAR is a recipient, if you will, of your end-to-end processes. Is it an opportunity to revisit and look at them? As we say in the third bullet, an opportunity to simplify? Absolutely. But don't plan or don't think that you're going to build your end-to-end order-to-cash processes or any of those through using RAR. You really need to think through that process first. So, from an S4, get started now. Think about the data migration we talked about before, because that will be a big issue for you. And then really take the opportunity to simplify. Don't just take old processes and bring them over. S4 offers a tremendous opportunity for people to simplify, modify, and improve your processes and transactions. So, we encourage you to take advantage of that. At Bramisol, we talk about three processes or three phases in your compliance. And as the compliance experts, what we look at is comply, optimize, and transform. Comply for today, optimize for tomorrow, and transform for the future. But what we tell people is focus on compliance. Ensure that you can report your data to the street. Don't leave reporting to the end. A lot of companies get out there and say, oh, okay, well, now we've completed our RAR journey and our RevRec journey, whether it's through RAR or other tools, but RevRec journey, now what do we do for reporting? We encourage you very much to think about the reporting, because at the end of the day, it's all about the reporting. We encourage you also, don't just think about the reporting itself. Think of the reporting in the context of audit and controls. So things like ICFR, internal controls for financial reporting. Make sure that you have an auditable trail and that you've thought about this. Do some tests. Make sure that you're consistently testing that your data is accurate and that you feel comfortable with that. In the past, we encouraged people to do one quarter of parallel testing. Of course, if you're in a project and you have a deadline, that's sometimes hard to do, but we do encourage you to do that. Robust data validation, garbage in, garbage out, as they say. Use a tool like Backoffice or other tools. They're SQL tools, SAP tools. There are a lot of tools out there to help with data validation, but make sure you spend adequate time on that. And involve your auditors early. At the end of the day, what you don't want to do is go to the auditor and say, here's the decisions we made, and they say, oh, that was interesting, but we don't agree. So again, focus on the idea of compliance, comply first, and then have a plan for optimization. A lot of companies that we see say, okay, well, we've done this RAR, now what? There's really an opportunity for you to optimize going forward, to really think about your business processes, to look at the different ways that you can use RAR and the analytics that we've built and are available to you, and create a plan for optimization and build the metrics for success. An example of that might be in our analytics tools that we present. You can look at something called contracts where you have changes or modifications or impairments. If you look at things like contract impairments, you can have a lot of interesting knowledge about where contracts are being canceled, what changes might be made to service plans, and make some decisions about how you might modify your upgrades, modify your plans. So take advantage of that and take advantage of the tool's capability to do advanced planning. So tips and tricks, tie them all up, data, 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 and focus on that. If you're doing S4, get started now with RAR and get started with your S4 now, and then think about comply, optimize, and transform. So Pete, that's kind of it from us. We certainly have a lot more. And we will be doing some videos together with Pete and the Waldorf team, highlighting a few of these updates and upgrades from FP6 and FP5 to give the user community here some more valuable information. So thank you for that, Pete.
Okay, thanks, John. All right, now we can move to Q&A.
Sure. So Pete,
yeah.
Quick question. There's a question out here. Approximately how many customers are live as of today?
We have about 70 in production. Let me just go to that slide. And I got to get the latest stats from more than a couple weeks ago, but about a couple weeks ago in July, it was over 70. We think about over 50 of those are reporting, to Wall Street or government agency. I mean, doing their official financial reporting using them.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. And yeah, we've been doing over 40 projects so far, and a large number of those are all live also. So absolutely. There's a question about the upgrades themselves. I'll let you answer. Is it a stair-step upgrade, or can you leap to the latest feature pack? So let's say that you're on FP3 or FP4. Do I have to move sequentially, or can I just jump to FP6 and get it all?
I thought you could jump. I mean, this is kind of a standard support pack question, right? If you go from support pack 1 to 3 in the SAP world, I thought they were cumulative. Is that not the case? If
I
not, then
believe it is.
yeah, that's what I thought. So, but we can confirm that offline if you want.
Yep. Pete, I assume you're going to talk about the book. Somebody asked about the book, so the book is
The
out
book
there.
is still there. It's still selling. It's still relevant. Let me see. Do I have the slide for the book? I think I have it here. The book. There's a link to the book. Yeah.
Yep. And maybe if I remember when you send me the presentations and I share them, maybe we can put that extra page for the book in there.
Yeah, we do have a slide. I mean, we have it in the link, and it turns out it's also in German now, or has been for a while. So there's the book. Yep, it's still there. I still have it on my desk, so.
All right. Have you heard anything about updating revenue schedules with a fiscal year change? Somebody said they were told that SAP does not support it, and implementing a fiscal year change now while live in RAR is a challenge as they move to S4.
That's a good question. I don't know. What we'd have to check on that one.
Okay,
So
so we'll
basically, you're
follow
on
up.
a normal calendar year, and you're going to a non-calendar
Yeah,
year fiscal variant, something like that. So.
Yeah, let me see if I can open up. Yep. All right, Jerry, I have opened up your mic. You can ask that question and follow up.
Okay, hi. This is actually Jerry Lee is my first name. We are in the middle of merging with Siemens. I work at Mentor Graphics.
Okay.
And we are live with RAR, and we are going to merge into a new S4 system. But at present, we're aligning our fiscal year with Siemens, and we cannot change the revenue schedules in the test system. And we reported it to SAP, and we're told development does not support changing fiscal years for RAR.
So,
I have it in a message from SAP. Now, I don't think that we are going to leave it at that, but I was asked to attend this meeting because Jan Willem could not, and he's the head of the RAR implementation, and he asked me to ask you guys if you had heard anything about it. And my manager also asked.
yeah, no, but let me understand. So, on the Mentor side, are you on a non-fiscal year calendar variant? Is that right?
We've never been on a calendar fiscal year.
Okay.
And we've
So your
already
question
changed.
is you're on a non-calendar year fiscal variant, and you want to switch to a calendar year variant when you move through the migration.
No, we're not. We've never been on a calendar year January to December, and we're not on a calendar year January to December now.
Right, but you want to move there, right?
We're moving to September end of year calendar. Fiscal year ends in September. We're aligning with Siemens.
Okay, so it's one non-calendar year physical variant to another is what you want to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if that matters. They don't. What the message said was we don't support fiscal year change for revenue schedules.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just trying to get an understanding of the overall problem. But if you can send us the message after the call, send it to John and I, then we'll dig into it and then just see what the options are.
Let me ask about that because we're in the middle of a ticket with SAP right now, and I was asked to find out if you knew of anybody else, and I just want to get approval to share the content of the message with SAP. I don't care if you get it, but I want to ask first. And then how do I get it to you?
I mean, you can send us the note number, or you can do an export of the note description. I think there's a way to get it into PDF, and you can send that to me.
It's not a note. It's a message.
Right. So, sorry,
Okay.
message. Just the
Incident.
OSS message. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I can get that. Okay, so I can
Yeah.
just send it to whoever invited me to this meeting.
Yes, you can
Yes.
send it to
Yep.
me at, yep. And by the way, there's a couple of Bramisol folks supporting your team, so you might want to reach out to them. But you know, Jerry, I do have your email. Follow up with me, and we'll help get you an answer. Okay.
Okay, and you're talking about Ritesh and Arjun and Hans, maybe.
Hans, yes. So reach out to Hans Christian. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. All right.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, we got a couple of more questions. Hang on, Pete.
Okay.
There's a question of how did other companies manage BOM to RAR? So why don't we do this? In that case, for folks out there, if you have moved from BOM to RAR, if you'd like to share some information on what you did, certainly what we can do is take that as part of our next follow-up and take that question and follow up with you all on other customer experiences and certainly Bramisol's experience in there. So. One customer asked, we're working on a project where client will be using external rights management system. Will the POBs need to be handled through deliveries even in this case? I think that's kind of, Pete, my answer would be that's kind of specific to what you're doing, and we'd love to follow up with you one-on-one to discuss that. But you can answer.
Yeah, no, I agree. That probably needs a little more clarification that we'd have to take offline. Yep.
Okay. All right. There's a couple of others that we answered about how many, and then how is down payment managed in RAR? And again, I think that's a more specific question that we can answer one-on-one.
Yep,
Pete, are you going to share the roadmap when we finish up Q&A?
Yeah, I mean, there's no change in the roadmap since we talked last time. So let me just cover that quickly. I mean, basically, we're in the planned innovations. Sorry, didn't move. So we're still, as we get into the end of second half of 2018, we're still doing functional roundoffs and improved support for disclosures as well as other improvements in the feature packs. As we get into 2019, we will start to continue with some of that work, but we'll also have probably updates of the roadmap to announce. We're hoping that by the fall, we'll be able to announce some of that clarity. Fall, there's actually also some improvements coming on 1809, which we'll announce at the next user group meeting, as well as hopefully by the next user group meeting, we'll also be able to announce some clarity on the roadmap into next year, including some of the strategies on the cloud side. So, but the basic roadmap for the next couple of quarters is pretty much unchanged. We're going to have additional feature packs with improvements and functional roundoffs. This is just one example from a long time ago, the first feature pack about how it works, but it is essentially the same type of things. You saw in the brief presentation I gave that there were performance improvements, there was additional SD process support, there was better support for disclosures, there was more granular contract modification capabilities, right? And that that's in line with the direction we gave back in March.
Okay. See if there's any other questions here real quick. No, I think that's it for the moment.
Okay, great. So we'll try to get the slides out here by early next week and
Yep.
include as much of this Feature Pack 5 and 6 overview documentation as we can. And then we'll also be working on, in the background, on setting up the next meeting for late September, early October at this point.
Yep. And for those of you who are interested in attending in person, if you just drop me an email at jfroelich, Froelich at bramishall.com, or Pete. And everybody has Pete. Unfortunately for Pete, they all have your email, Pete.
I know.
And if you just
On the
drop us a quick
slides.
email and let us know that you're interested in attending in person, we will make sure that we get enough space there. What we'll do is probably something similar to something we're doing in another area, which is have a virtual update and user group meeting followed by an open discussion of key learnings and information sharing amongst customers. So, all right. And this will be
Sounds good.
available. We're recording it, so we should have it available very shortly for you, for those of you who want to share within your teams.
All right, thanks everyone for attending. Have a good
Okay,
rest of your
thank you.
day.
Thanks,
Thanks, John,
Pete.
for
Okay,
sponsoring. Yep.
our pleasure. Bye-bye.
All right, thanks. Bye.